For 27 years, Hugh Jackman and Deborra-Lee Furness were one of Hollywood's most recognizable couples. Their relationship was often presented as a rare example of stability in an industry where marriages can disappear as quickly as they begin. They built a family, supported each other through career highs and personal struggles, and repeatedly spoke publicly about the strength of their relationship. But in September 2023, that picture changed dramatically when the couple announced that they were separating. At first, there was no explosive accusation, no public fight, no detailed explanation. Their statement was measured, respectful, and focused on the future. They described their journey as changing and said they wanted to pursue individual growth while keeping their family at the center of their lives. But what happened afterward created a completely different narrative. Deborra-Lee Furness largely disappeared from the public conversation. She didn't launch a media campaign. She didn't sit down for a long television interview. She didn't publicly attack Hugh Jackman. Instead, she remained remarkably quiet while rumors and speculation continued to grow around her former husband. And then, in 2025, she finally gave the public one powerful word to describe what the experience had felt like to her. That word was betrayal. It was enough to send the story in an entirely new direction. Now, with continued speculation surrounding Hugh Jackman and his relationship with Broadway star Sutton Foster, many people are asking an obvious question. What does Deborra-Lee Furness actually think about the possibility of Hugh Jackman marrying Sutton Foster? The answer is more complicated than many headlines suggest. Because while the internet may want a dramatic confrontation, the confirmed record tells a much more careful story. To understand why, we have to go back to where Hugh Jackman and Deborra-Lee Furness began. The two first met in 1995 while working together on the Australian television series Corelli. Jackman was just 25 years old and still at the beginning of his acting career. Furness, 13 years older than him, was already an established actress with years of professional experience. Their connection developed quickly, and in April 1996, they married. At the time, nobody could have known just how dramatically Jackman's career would change over the next several years. The young Australian actor would eventually become internationally famous for his role as Wolverine in the X-Men franchise. That character transformed him into a global movie star, but Jackman didn't stop there. He also became a respected stage performer, earning major recognition on Broadway, while continuing to work in film, television, and music. Through much of that transformation, Furness remained by his side, but her story was never simply about being Hugh Jackman's wife. She had her own acting career, her own professional identity, and eventually became a prominent advocate for adoption reform in Australia. The couple's journey toward parenthood was not easy. They experienced difficulties with IVF and miscarriage before eventually adopting two children. Their son Oscar was adopted in 2000, followed by their daughter Ava in 2005. For years, Jackman spoke publicly about Furness with enormous affection. Their anniversary posts became something of a tradition. In 2021, on their 25th wedding anniversary, Jackman shared photographs from their wedding day and wrote an emotional message celebrating their life together. 2 years later, in April 2023, he again marked their anniversary publicly, praising Furness for qualities including her loyalty, generosity, and laughter. Only a month after that anniversary, the two were photographed together at the Met Gala. From the outside, everything appeared normal. Then came September. The announcement shocked people who had watched their relationship for decades. Hugh Jackman and Deborra-Lee Furness announced that they had decided to separate after nearly 27 years of marriage. The language was carefully chosen. There was no public accusation. There was no detailed explanation. There was no naming of another person. Instead, the couple presented the separation as a decision to move into a new chapter of their lives while continuing to prioritize their family. For the public, that left a giant unanswered question. What had actually happened? And because Hollywood rarely leaves an unanswered question unanswered for long, speculation quickly filled the gap. While Furness remained mostly silent, attention began shifting toward another person connected to Hugh Jackman, Sutton Foster. Foster was not an unknown figure in the entertainment industry. She was an accomplished Broadway performer with multiple Tony Awards and a long history of success in musical theater. Her connection to Jackman began professionally. In The Music Man, Jackman played Harold Hill, while Foster played Marion the librarian. The Broadway production created an environment in which the two performers spent enormous amounts of time together. Rehearsals, performances, press events, interviews, night after night on the same stage. That kind of professional relationship can create an unusually close bond between performers. During the production, Foster spoke positively about the time she and Jackman spent talking before shows. At the time, there was no confirmed evidence that their relationship was anything other than a professional friendship. That distinction is extremely important, because in the years since, rumors about Jackman and Foster have become increasingly intense. Some entertainment reports have cited anonymous insiders who claimed that problems in Jackman and Furness's marriage may have existed before the separation became public. But those claims have never been established as confirmed facts by Jackman or Furness, and there has never been a public confirmation from either Jackman or Foster that an affair occurred during Jackman's marriage. Nevertheless, once the separation became public, people began looking backward at the timeline. Suddenly, old interviews were being examined again. Old photographs were being reconsidered. Professional interactions were being interpreted through the lens of what happened later. Then another major development occurred. In October 2024, Sutton Foster filed for an uncontested divorce from her husband, screenwriter Ted Griffin, after approximately 10 years of marriage. A few months later, in January 2025, Jackman and Foster were photographed together in public. And this time, the photographs showed something that was difficult for people to dismiss as simply a professional friendship. The pair were seen holding hands. The rumors became louder. By October 2025, Jackman and Foster made their first public red carpet appearance together as a couple. For many observers, that was the moment when speculation became much more believable. But while the world was becoming increasingly interested in Jackman and Foster, Deborra-Lee Furness was taking a very different path. On May 23, 2025, Furness officially filed for divorce from Jackman in a New York court. And then, for days later, she made a statement to People magazine. This was significant because it represented her first major public comment about the marriage since the original separation announcement in 2023. And she used a word that immediately attracted attention: betrayal. Furness described the experience as a traumatic journey of betrayal. She spoke about betrayal as a profound wound that cuts deeply. But there is an important detail that many dramatic headlines leave out. Furness did not publicly name Hugh Jackman in connection with that word. She did not name Sutton Foster. She did not describe an affair. She did not identify a particular event and say, "This is what happened." Instead, she spoke about her emotional experience and the process of healing. She talked about compassion. She talked about faith. She talked about believing in a higher power and finding meaning even through painful experiences. And perhaps most importantly, she talked about returning to herself. She described finding liberation and freedom in living according to her own values. That is a very different statement from a direct public accusation. It may have raised questions, but it did not answer them. And that distinction matters, because the public often wants a simple story. One person was wrong. One person was betrayed. Another person entered the picture. And now there will be a dramatic confrontation. But the confirmed record does not provide that complete story. What it provides is a separation, a divorce, a later relationship, and a deeply emotional statement from Furness about what the end of her marriage felt like. The rest remains uncertain. The legal side of the divorce also moved remarkably quickly. According to the reference material, New York court records showed the case was marked as disposed, with a judgment date of June 3, 2025. The divorce was described as uncontested, meaning the major terms had already been worked out between the two sides before the case reached the judge. There were also legal arrangements involving settlement, health coverage, and matters relating to their children. Various entertainment outlets have reported claims about the financial settlement, including suggestions that Furness received substantial spousal support, but the exact financial terms have not been publicly established. That means any specific dollar figure circulating online should be treated cautiously. The same caution applies to estimates of Jackman and Furness's combined wealth. Celebrity net worth numbers, can be repeated thousands of times online without ever being officially verified. So when a headline presents a giant financial number as fact, it is worth asking where that number actually came from. But there is another question that has become even more important. What about the rumored Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster wedding? This is where the story becomes particularly difficult to separate from speculation. Various entertainment outlets have reported that Jackman and Foster became engaged during a trip to Costa Rica around New Year's 2026. Some reports have claimed that the couple has been discussing wedding plans. Others have suggested they have been considering venues. There have even been reports about possible conversations involving a prenuptial agreement. But there is one major problem. There has been no official engagement announcement from Jackman or Foster confirming those claims. There is also no publicly confirmed wedding date, and the reports themselves have not even been consistent. Some stories have suggested a wedding could happen later in 2026. Other reports have claimed that wedding discussions may have been paused because the relationship has experienced tension. So which version is true? Right now, the honest answer is that the public doesn't know. What is confirmed is that Jackman and Foster have been publicly involved as a couple. They have appeared together. They have been photographed together. They made their red carpet debut as a couple in October 2025. They have also been seen together during trips and public outings. But a confirmed relationship is not the same thing as a confirmed wedding. And this is exactly where Deborra-Lee Furness becomes part of the conversation again. Has she responded to the possibility of Hugh Jackman marrying Sutton Foster? Based on the information available, no. There has been no direct statement from Furness specifically addressing a Jackman-Foster wedding. Her major public statement came in May 2025. That statement was about her experience of divorce and what she called a journey of betrayal. The major wedding speculation emerged later. So when a headline suggests that Furness has reacted directly to a Jackman-Foster wedding announcement, viewers should immediately ask one question. Was there actually an official wedding announcement? If the answer is no, then there is no confirmed announcement for Furness to react to. This doesn't mean she has no feelings about it. Of course, she may have private feelings. Anyone who has spent 27 years married to someone would naturally have complicated emotions when that person begins another chapter. But private feelings are not public facts. And that difference is especially important in celebrity reporting. There is another part of the story that could eventually change everything. Reports have suggested that Furness may be considering writing a memoir about her marriage and its end. Some entertainment outlets have claimed that she kept detailed personal notes during the separation. If she eventually writes such a book, it could provide something the public has never really had. Her full account in her own words. Not an anonymous insider. Not a tabloid source. Not a headline. Not a social media interpretation. Her own story. And that could be far more powerful than any rumor. For nearly 2 years, Furness allowed speculation to continue without publicly explaining her side. Then, when she finally spoke, she still chose not to give the public every detail. Instead, she gave them a framework. Betrayal, pain, healing, faith, self-discovery, freedom. Those words tell us something about her emotional experience, even if they don't tell us every factual detail about what happened inside the marriage. And perhaps that is intentional. Maybe she simply wasn't ready to tell everything. Maybe there are legal or personal reasons for keeping certain details private. Or perhaps she believes that some parts of a 27-year marriage should remain between the people who lived it. Whatever the reason, her silence should not automatically be interpreted as proof of any particular rumor. At the same time, her use of the word betrayal should not be ignored. It was a strong word. It carried emotional weight. And because it came from Furness herself, it became one of the most important pieces of information the public has about how she experienced the end of the relationship. The challenge is understanding what that word means without adding details she never publicly provided. That is where responsible storytelling matters. The story of Hugh Jackman, Deborra-Lee Furness, and Sutton Foster has become one of those celebrity stories where fact and speculation can easily become mixed together. The facts are relatively clear. Jackman and Furness met in 1995. They married in 1996. They built a family together. They remained married for approximately 27 years. They announced their separation in September 2023. Furness stayed mostly silent publicly afterward. Jackman continued his career. Foster and Jackman became increasingly connected in public after their work together on The Music Man. Foster filed for divorce from Ted Griffin in 2024. Jackman and Foster were photographed holding hands in January 2025. They made their red carpet debut as a couple in October 2025. Furness filed for divorce from Jackman in May 2025. She described her experience as a traumatic journey of betrayal. The divorce was finalized in June 2025, and reports about a possible Jackman-Foster engagement or wedding have continued into 2025.